Hey guys, how's it going, Dudey? I'm back with another video today. I'm doing a video that has been requested for a very long time. It's Colin Pitchfork, but the reason I'm doing this right now is because after 33 years, this man has been released from prison. Now you have to excuse me today, guys. I do have a bit of a thing going on my throat. It's very painful, but I will try my best today, okay? Colin Pitchfork is from Leicestershire and he is known as the Black Pad Killer who raped and killed two 15-year-old girls in the 1980s. The two girls were Linda Mann from Narborough and Dawn Ashby from Enderby. Previous to these murders, he actually indecently assaulted two other women and was quite a prolific flasher. One thing that makes this case quite historic was that Colin Pitchfork was the first ever killer caught due to DNA testing. Colin Pitchfork was born in March of 1960, like I said, in Leicestershire, and at the age of 16 he became a baker, a job that he had from the age of 16 all the way up to his incarceration. Colin had two sons, one born in 1983, the other born in 1986, the years that the murders took place. On November 21st, 1983, Colin raped and murdered 15-year-old Linda Mann. On the night of the murder, Linda Mann was babysitting and she walked home, but this time decided to take a shortcut, not her usual route, and this unfortunately would prove to be a fatal mistake. Colin was driving around in his car with his baby son on the back seat when he spotted Linda walking. From here, Colin parked up his car, leaving his baby son inside, went over to Linda and exposed himself to her. Naturally, of course, Linda was terrified and she ran away as fast as she could from him, but unfortunately he caught up, grabbed her, raped her, and then strangled her to death. He apparently murdered her to prevent her from identifying him. Apparently before the rape took place, Linda said to him, "What about your wife?" identifying him as married. He also realised that he was losing some of his hair and he had a distinguished earring, so he was worried that she'd be able to identify him quite easily, so that is why he murdered her. Her body was found the next morning on the footpath. Now, unfortunately, the police failed to catch Colin after this rape and murder. He was questioned by police and actually didn't have an alibi, but because he was left in charge of his baby son, it kind of felt to the police like, well, he was in charge of a baby, so surely he wouldn't be out raping and murdering people. But of course, that's exactly what he did. Now, from samples taken from Linda's body, they were able to identify a certain blood type that the murderer would have. Unfortunately, it was fairly commonly shared amongst men, in which 10% had the same blood type. In October 1985, Colin went on to indecently assault another girl and threaten her with a screwdriver and unfortunately was not caught. Fast forward to 1986, the murder of Dawn Ashworth. On the 31st of July 1986, Colin raped and murdered another 15-year-old girl not far from where he raped and murdered Linda Mann. On Thursday the 31st of July, Dawn decided to go and see her friends, but unfortunately they weren't home, so she decided to return home. It was on her way home that she went on a footpath in Enderby called £10 Lane. Colin was riding on his motorbike and spotted her, and so he parked up and went after her. Similar to the first case, he exposed himself to her, which caused her to run in terror. He chased her down, grabbed her, and raped her on the footpath. Again, Colin murdered Dawn to stop her from identifying him. He dumped her body and hid it under foliage, and she was found 2 days later. Now, unfortunately, police once again failed to catch Colin. However, this was put on Crime Watch this time, and they felt like they had a direct link because the cases were so close together and the MO was the same, and they had this DNA sample. Police did arrest an innocent 17-year-old man called Richard Buckland, who was arrested on the 8th of August 1986, and after some intense interrogation actually confessed to the second murder. Now, Richard was incredibly lucky because Alec Jeffreys had just invented fingerprint recognition, which actually proved that he was innocent. It is thought that Richard was mentally handicapped, which is one of the reasons why, under intense interrogation, he perhaps confessed. So the police had this blood sample that only matched 10% of men, but they knew that they could be more specific if they had a wider sample base. So they reached out to the men of the local area that matched this blood type, and 4,500 men came forward to give samples. One of the men was Colin Pitchfork. However, he thought of a way to get away with it. A guy that he worked with called Ian Kelly, he sent him to go in his place and pretend to be Colin Pitchfork. Colin cut out the picture from his passport, put a picture of Ian Kelly in it and sent him along, and it actually worked. Now, he would have gotten away with this had it not been for Ian Kelly boasting about it in a pub a few days later, and a woman overheard and contacted the police. Police arrested Ian, and he did, of course, confess that he did take the blood test in place of Colin, which looks very suspicious. Police arrested Colin, who was then aged 27, at his home, and Colin confessed to both murders. Pitchfork apparently said he only wanted to expose himself to the girls, but when they ran away, he decided to rape them, and to stop them from identifying him, he murdered them. He was put on trial and given 2 life sentences for the murders plus 10 years for the rapes. He was also sentenced to 3 years for 2 indecent assaults, and an additional 3 years for perverting the course of justice. The trial judge said that the rapes and murders were particularly sadistic. So why 33 years later has this man been released? He had an appeal that was independently reviewed, and despite apparently government intervention and the families of the victims' intervention, he has been set free. In the last few years, he has been in an open prison. Now, until researching for this video, I didn't actually realise open prisons were a thing, which is why in recent years he's been photographed at shops and things like that, because apparently in these open prisons, there's a curfew, and they can be quite relaxed due to good behaviour, etc. But he raped and killed 2 15-year-old girls, got 2 life sentences, plus 10 years for raping them both, plus 3 years for indecent assault, plus another 3 years for perverting the course of justice, and manages to get away with serving 33 years, which I know sounds like a lot of time, but when you consider what this man done, I don't understand how he is free. And what's also crazy is apparently this man won't be put on a sex offenders register, and also apparently his probation is so stringent, it's the most strict probation rules that has ever been given to someone. Now, if you have to introduce the strictest rules for being released from prison for someone, maybe they shouldn't be released from prison. Naturally, the families are mortified. If you do something like this to someone, you shouldn't be released. If you do something like this to a child, you should burn in hell. If you do something like this to 2 children, you should never see the light of day again. What do you guys think? I would love to know your thoughts down below on this. Do you think this man should be released? Do you think he deserves a second chance? I personally don't. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, please leave me a like, please subscribe and share the videos. Thank you, I appreciate you. I'm going to go now because my throat is really painful. Thank you, guys. Sweet on, geese.